Hello, everyone. My name is David Apple, and I will be your host for today's webinar. I want to thank all those joining us for the first time, as well as welcome back all of our loyal followers. Today's webinar is going to be around cloud cost control presented by Bobby McCullough. Bobby has over 25 years in the IT and telecom industry. He is ITIL V3 Foundations and Scrum certified and possesses experience in various solutions, including IT service, IT financial, and IT asset management. He's worked with high-profile clients ranging from the United States Postal Service all the way to Citigroup. He was recruited here to Flycast to help out our clients with digital service operations. Before we kick off the webinar over to Bobby, I just want to provide everybody an overview of Flycast Partners. Flycast Partners, we're here to deliver a truly amazing IT experience. Founded and staffed by personnel who have many years of experience in the IT space, we took the best ideas and from these experiences to provide the best components necessary to grow and become a value-added reseller and process consultant in North America. We offer best-in-class implementation services and training in IT service management, IT asset, endpoint management, capacity management, as well as IT operations management. Our professional services can scale up or down to meet the IT needs of any organization, regardless of your size or the project or any budgetary restrictions you may have. We offer services both on-site and remote, as well as different types of training. Our remote administration offerings will enable your organization to focus on the normal day-to-day operations, saving you both time and money. I encourage everyone to reach out to us. You can give us a call at 1-844-FLYCAST. That's 844-359-2278, or simply visit our website and chat with one of our specialists. You can also look us up and see our upcoming webinars, different training offerings, as well as information about our podcast and the different solutions we provide. That all being said, I'd like to hand it over to introduce Bobby to move on with our presentation.
Great. Thanks, David. Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. Today we're going to talk a bit about our cloud cost control solution, but really we're going to talk about the value that it brings and the issues that it solves. If you have any questions, you can submit them through the interface, and we'll try to save a little time at the end to touch on those. As David said, my name is Bobby McCullough. I'm a solutions engineer here at Flycast in our digital service organization area. And so as we talk to customers and try to understand the challenges that they have, what we're hearing is that most organizations are either have or are moving toward a hybrid or multi-cloud type infrastructure where you've got some things on premise, some things in Azure, AWS, or Google, and the problem is that organizations really don't have a complete view of this, and so that's sort of across the board issues that we're hearing when we talk to customers. There's a problem with spend, and as investment budget is being shifted from traditional on-premise infrastructure to multi-cloud, companies really have a lot to learn, because that's moving budget and money from capital investment, capital budget, to operating budget, and that's a big change for organizations. Gartner anticipates that 80% of organizations are going to have budget overruns in this move to the cloud, and this is primarily due to a lack of governance or insight into their cloud spend. And this really is a holdover from bad habits that IT was able to develop during the glory days of capital expenditures, capital budgets. This overspend is most likely going to be caused by over-provisioning, and that's something that IT's been doing for a long time. They haven't had experience with the immediate business impact that comes from purchasing cloud infrastructure using the operational budget. And this overspend is expected to be significant. Gartner's predicting 70% in the first 18 months of cloud use. And this is bore out with the customers that we talk to. We have one large technology manufacturer that shared they were spending 200 to 300% more than they anticipated on the public cloud. And that's one thing when that's a capital expenditure that happens one time and then you move on. But that's a completely other thing when that's an operating expenditure. We've got another customer in the educational industry expected a $3 million bill from Amazon and got a $32 million bill from Amazon. So these topics we're going to talk about today is Flycast's way of showing you how you cannot be included in these statistics. So if wasted spend is the symptom, what's the actual disease? What's going on? And again, this is what we're hearing from organizations when we talk about their cloud migrations or after the fact, what happened. They have oversized and unused resources, and again, these are bad habits that formed with on-premise resources. Many organizations haven't invested in capacity management because I believe it's just cheaper to buy the additional assets. So it's very common to have oversized VMs, storage, idle VMs, and utilization rates of 20% have now become acceptable. These same habits become very expensive when you move these workloads to the public cloud. You're paying for those underutilized and unused resources out of your operating budget. Public cloud has also made the business of selecting and buying infrastructure complicated by offering more resource and price configurations than you have for your on-premise resources. Azure offers about 65,000 different options for virtual machine deployments. AWS has over 1 million. How do you find staff that understands that so that they can help you, help your organization through that migration, making those type of choices? It's very difficult, and it's only expanding. Public cloud means your operating budget is being spent every minute of every day throughout the month, quarter, and the year. IT and other cloud buyers need help planning your operational budget as they move those resources from on-premise to the cloud. But more importantly, they need visibility into that spend and how it's tracking against that operational budget. And that's critical, understanding where you are in a budget cycle, what's left, and where you're going to be at the end of your budget cycle. The individuals or different buying centers inside of a company. This is basically buying unchecked or the Wild West. This leads to a complete lack of visibility on what's being spent across the company and even for specific business units. Public cloud spending can add up very, very quickly. And when you have these sort of independent buying centers, usually it's the CFO that's the first person to understand what the cloud spend is. And that's not a situation you want to be in. You want to understand what that spend is before it makes it that far up the chain. Everyone is involved in public cloud buying and spending, and everyone that's involved needs visibility. It's easy to overspend unintendedly. IT and business staff are not used to thinking about the costs of infrastructure or right-sizing specifically. We've had several examples, even with BMC. There was a dev group that had to meet a deadline and thought it was just easier just to go ahead and put it on their credit card to spin up some AWS instances, database resources, so they could do their testing. And that was the quickest way to get that up. But the problem was, within a very few days, they had spent $21,000 and pushed their team well over their budget for what they could put on that card for the month. IT then had to step in, provide resources, and move them back on premise. This is a costly way of doing business. Organizations also lack ability to forecast future costs. So if you can't see it and understand what's going on currently, then there's really no way to predict what's going to happen. And you lack governance. You're lacking governance over the use of the cloud, what options people can select, and so on. We've got a utility company that we're working with to helping them right-size their public cloud infrastructure. They moved 1,700 applications to over 20,000 VMs in AWS. They got a bill of about $36 million. Now, we've helped them through the solution we're going to talk about today. We've helped them reduce their bill by about 20%, and continuing to work with them to decrease it further. Their goal right now is to reduce it by about 30 to 40%, and that's possible with the solution we're going to talk about. So if the cloud is basically a money vacuum in the sky, what can Flycast and BMC do to help? Well, the first thing is you can't expect what you can't inspect. So I want you to, when we jump over into the software, I want you to pick up on visibility, because that's really the first step in solving this problem, is providing an enterprise-wide, end-to-end view of your cloud infrastructure and on-premise infrastructure. It's in a single portal view, where you can see all that information from multiple perspectives, including sort of a organizationally defined view, something that makes sense specifically to your organization. This is the type of information that your cloud architect needs through each step of their activities in architecting your cloud solutions. The next item, enhanced migration planning. So we're talking about cloud. Digital transformation is table stakes. You must be able to properly plan your migration to and from the cloud with respect to costs, and I'm going to show you how you can do that. I'm going to show you how you can have options for what to move, where to move, and how to move it. And then all that can be reported up to the head director, VP of your cloud initiative. So visibility and migration, that's the foundation that gets you in the cloud. What do you do once you're there? Well, budgeting. Budgeting is critical. You've got to understand where you are in the budget cycle, and so we can use this solution to show your director of cloud infrastructure where he is visually with respect to time and money. I'm going to show you how we use the visibility of the tool to bring things to your attention that deserve your attention, not just everything. And this is where we can start beginning to move the perception of your organization from sort of a cost center to more of a revenue center or a support center. This is really critical for changing customer perceptions and expectations. And finally, optimizations and cost. Optimization of resources and cost. So we're going to show you how to get the most out of what you're buying, to use what it is you're buying, and get the most out of it. So this is sort of the ongoing cost control that we're able to provide. So let's jump over to the software. Now, this is TrueSight's cloud cost control solution, And a couple of things when you first launch into the screen. This is a summary. So this is sort of an overview of your infrastructure from a cost perspective. I have the ability to turn on and off different providers of that infrastructure. I also see that data from a monthly perspective and a yearly perspective. Within those, I can see what has been billed and what is forecasted to be billed. So that's very, very helpful in understanding costs and future costs and understanding where you are and where you're going to be. Not just in that monthly and yearly perspective. We've also got it over time here as well. And so you're able to see how that your cloud migration is growing, how those costs are increasing, and within which provider or providers are those increasing. So this is sort of your overview of what's going on with your cloud environment. There are multiple perspectives of this data. This is just one. We can also look at these by your cloud services. So these are specific services within a vendor, AWS Compute, Azure Compute, and so on. I see my monthly spend here. I can drill into any of these to see any kind of detail. I've also got business service perspective of this data. So this is your ITIL business services, where you've defined this collection of infrastructure is used to provide this service. And we can use this to drill into, we'll grab an on-premise. You're able to drill into it and look at the costs over time, see where you are today, where you've been, and where you're projected to go. And again, this is true for all these perspectives. We're going to come back and talk about budget here in just a second. I talked about organizationally defined views. So you've got your cost pools, and so these are budgeting, budget account numbers, or groups, or ways of grouping your data together so that you can look at the total cost from that one perspective. And see those from this screen. Now, we talked about how having the visibility to understand where you are, what you've got, and where it's going. But we also, within those views, let's dive into support services here. So this is one of my ITIL services. I can see here what my projected monthly cost is, but I can simulate a migration to the cloud from a single click here. So from any of these perspectives that we were looking at, I can click this Simulate Cloud Migration, and it jumps out and tells me which system is the best for that particular service. So this one is telling us that Google Cloud came up the best. And not only does this provide, cost information. So I'm going to move this service from on-prem to Google Cloud. But it also tells me how to size that instance, what that looks like on-premise, and what it should look like on the cloud once we've moved it. Now, again, this was just one perspective of that way to move. Here under the budgeting tab, the same data, only it's looking at it from a budgeting perspective. I can click any of these columns to sort them. But here I want to look at who's going over their budget. And really, what I want to look at is not percentages are important, but since we've got so many, let's look at just raw dollars. And this particular, this is a cost pool. This particular cost pool looks like it's one of my bigger offenders. Let's look at HR service management. So this is one that the system is telling me it's an overspender. So the system is using that data collection of bringing all that cloud information together to understand this business service or this cost pool or whatever it is over budget and projected to be over considerably. Now, we've got the ability to set notifications so that when that is first projected to go over budget, you're notified. You being the person responsible for TrueSight and the cloud management. We can also let the particular business unit that's responsible for HR here know about this as well, so that they understand where they are. No one is in the dark about what's happening. But where the tool really shines, we've moved you to the cloud. We use the tool to determine what to move to the cloud and how to size it. Now that we're out in the cloud, here we've got someone that's over budget, and it looks like they're going to be over budget considerably. So let's go back and look at our summary for this particular one. And this particular service tells us that there's a potential savings here of $3,785 a month. So this is where your staff, without having a massive background in AWS offerings, Azure offerings, or Google Cloud offerings, and your on-premise solutions as well, without having that extensive background in all of those, with a single click, I can find out that my HR service management can save almost $3,800 a month just by managing some idle systems and over-allocated systems. I could drill into any of these and see individually, machine by machine or system by system, what needs to be cut off, what needs to be terminated. I've also got the ability to do the same with my over-allocated VMs. This information can be shared, can be printed and shared. So if that is something that needs to be distributed within your organization, you've got the ability to do that. We've also got the ability to, so we've talked about visibility. We've talked about the cloud migration, allowing the system to tell you what to move and how to move it and where. We've talked about budgeting, how it can help you in an ongoing way on managing your budgets. This is how we can help optimize both cost and utilization. Another way that we help in that cost and utilization is reserved instances. So if you're familiar with the cloud, you know that you have reserved instances at AWS that you can purchase, and you also have spot instances, on-demand systems that you just pull up, use as you need, turn them off. Those aren't always the most cost-effective, depending on how they're used. And from this screen, I'm able to see that for my entire organization, I could save almost $48,000 a month by moving by purchasing 9 new reserved instances and moving some of those spots over to the 9. Very, very helpful tool when you're moving to the cloud, or when once you're in the cloud, taking care of your organization on an ongoing basis. So what were the themes that we talked about that organizations were having with their cloud initiatives, and with how our solution helps solve those. Well, the first, again, was visibility. It's critical for understanding outcomes. Visibility is critical for making fact-based judgments. And the only way that you can easily perform these tasks, this migration to the cloud and understanding it, is throw people at it, or have a solution like this that provides the type of information that you're going to need. Enhanced migration, cloud management, migrating is sort of table stakes. Lift and shift does not work. Lift and shift, all that does is perpetuates those bad habits that we created from the on-premise days. But you don't have to just hope for the best. The TrueSight Cloud Cost Control tool, very easy to implement, can tell you very quickly at the click of a mouse where any particular business service, cost pool, or budget perspective, a business unit, where their infrastructure needs to go for the best cost and utilization. Proactive budgeting, moving to operating budgets from capital budgets just requires a different perspective. You've got to be able to understand where you are in the budgeting cycle, just as your end user customers need to be able to understand. All those views that I showed you of your cloud data, those are available to your end user customers as well. You can roll those out to the individual business units, and they can see their slice of the pie and how it's impacting the budget. And then finally, optimizing resources and costs. I'm in the cloud. I've got my hybrid environment, so I'm done now. No, you're not. We've got budgeting we have to manage, and we've also ongoing optimization of those resources and costs. We want to make sure that you don't have unused or underused resources, and that you're using what you're paying for, and only paying for what you're using. So we've got a few minutes now for questions. David, I don't know if any questions have come over.
Not currently, but anybody who does have questions, we have a Q&A section in the WebEx. Please feel free to type those in, and we'll wait around another minute or two to see if there's any questions on the webinar. And we did get a question, Bobby, asking around if there are plans to support the Oracle Cloud.
So I know that I don't know the specific plans for other cloud providers. The three that you saw, AWS, Azure, and Google, are the big three currently. And I know they're expanding this. I just don't know what's next. I'm sure they're aware of Oracle, but no idea where it is in the plans.
Yeah, a great question, and something we can definitely follow up with you, Bernadette, down the road. So we'll be sure to stay in contact as we get that an answer for you, or an idea, on BMC's roadmap with this solution. If there's any other questions. And we have another one here asking how we sell the tool. Basically, Bobby, are you able to at least cover how it's typically licensed?
So I believe I am not the best person for the money question, but I believe this is it's priced out based on endpoints that are managed. David, I'm going to have to get back to you on that one for sure. I normally don't touch those. I pass those over to the account managers.
Yeah, I know we like to keep your focus based on the actual product and solution and capabilities it provides. So we will get back to you, Bernadette. We're happy to answer some of those questions. And if you have any others that we're not able to answer today, we'll make sure that we're in contact with everybody who attends, as well as being able to provide the recording of this event. We'll have that available sometime early next week. I don't see any other new questions popping up, Bobby. So I do want to thank you for the presentation. As well as thank everybody who attended, and for all those who did attend. If you have any other questions, definitely reach out to us at 844-359-2278 or via our website.
So, David, there's a question that I normally get, and I kind of deliberately didn't cover it. Going to wait for somebody to bring it up, but I'll go ahead and bring it up now. Not all cloud services are equal. So how in the world do you compare if my instances aren't the same? How can you make a reasonable comparison across all those instances? The way we do that is something called normalized compute hours. So the solution has a concept of something called a 2x4, 2 CPUs and 4 gigs of RAM, and a compute hour is 1. And that's how the system is able to compare across providers and different sized instances. It's 2 of those compute hours if it's 4 CPUs and 8 gig of RAM. It's only 1 if it's half that. So they've come up with a way to really make that manageable, make that comparison usable.
Oh no, that's a great point, Bobby, and yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up before we kind of close out here. Yeah, no, that's appreciated. I don't see any other questions on here.
Okay.
So again, we appreciate you taking the time to do this presentation, and I appreciate everyone who was able to attend. And we look forward to seeing everybody on our next webinar in a couple weeks.
Great. Thanks, David. Thanks, everyone.